Alrighty, hi guys, how you doing? This is going to be my 1 week update. I am officially 1 week post-op from VSG surgery. And I'm feeling pretty decent. Pros and cons is what I'm going to talk about. I'll talk about my my experience in the pre-op and post-op in the hospital. I'm going to talk about my pain and the meds. I'm gonna talk about like the liquid diets, vitamins, and some other things. So if you have problems with, you know, bodily functions or whatever, you might not want to watch this, and it might be kind of a long video, so sit with me, okay? I'm sorry, I'm looking at myself and I have to point out that in my last video I noticed that I kind of talk like out of the side of my mouth when I get it like on camera. It's very strange. I don't know why I do it. Don't judge me. When I first started this journey for weight loss about a year and 22 days ago, I weighed 245 last New Year's, and then I lost about 10 pounds, so I was 235 starting the options program at Kaiser. I lost about 15 pounds in that, so I ended at 220. I went into surgery at 218, 219, something like that. But my scale here at home is a few pounds off from the doctor's, probably because when I weigh myself here, it's like right before a shower or something, so I'm naked. When I go to the doctor's, it's in clothes. Whatever, it's a few pounds difference, so I'm gonna go based off my scale here. The morning of my surgery, when I woke up, I weighed 216, and then today I weigh 203. So I've lost 13 pounds since surgery. So that means I have lost altogether 38 pounds? 38 pounds? Holy cannoli, that sounds like so much. Am I 38 pounds in a year and 22 days? 13 pounds in 1 week. So that's good. When I arrived there, my surgery time was supposed to be 11:30, so I had to arrive at 10:45, something like that. It's not like back in the day where you have to be there at like 6 a.m., something crazy. So the day before I did all liquids, and then so I woke up in the morning, rolled out of bed, had to drive through like 2 hours of traffic, and then got to West LA at about 10:20. So I was a little early. So I went upstairs, and the receptionist, who she wasn't in a happy mood, I guess, gave me my wrist bracelet that had, you know, all my information on it, and told me to wait for the nurse to come get me. I probably waited like 3 minutes, and the medical assistant that was working in the surgical unit came and got me. So then she had us, because she grabbed me and somebody else, not getting the same surgery, but somebody else getting surgery. And so she grabbed us and brought us back into the changing room and had us weigh in and had us change into, you know, the cool, like, what's the name? Cafeteria lady, like the head thing, you know, like the net. I can't remember what those are called. And of course the gown that has like the open back. So, oh, and we're fully naked underneath, so that's cool. So me and this guy come out and we're looking at each other, and I was like, we look cool. So then she walked us over to our separate beds, which happened to be right across from each other, and she hooked us up to, like, you know, the O2 monitor on our finger. She put us in compression sleeves that, you know, fill up with air and compress your calves and then release, and fill up with air, compress your calves, release, and that's to prevent blood clots. It keeps your blood moving, so that's cool. And they put us under this awesome, like, warmer blanket. It was being blown into by this huge tube full of, like, hot air, and I was like, oh, what is life? I love this. And so she then, of course, like, took our blood pressure, you know, heart rate, all that good stuff. and I have a video of that. So I didn't bring in this camera with me because I snuck in my cell phone. I wasn't supposed to have anything. So I have a video on my cell phone that I'm gonna put in here for you guys.
Alright, so we have O2 monitoring. They put me under this heating blanket. It's really awesome. I have a blood pressure cuff on my forearm. That's the TV here. And we have, they're called inflation cuffs, I believe, and they help prevent blood clots. So, I'm being monitored. Here's the whole station. And that's about it.
And so that is basically what my pre-op was. The anesthesiologist comes over and he of course asks you all the important questions and makes sure you're good. Tells you what he's gonna do and you're like, alright, like, I don't have a choice. And then the doctor comes over, he talks to you, makes sure that he's doing the right procedure, you're the right person, blah blah blah. He chats for a little bit. And then the nurse will come over, she starts your IV, which I have a awesome bruise there from, which just showed up yesterday. Crazy. She puts the IV in and she gives you what I believe antibiotics. She gave a shot of heparin in the arm. They also give you I can't remember exactly which relaxant it is right now. If I remember, I'll put the name down here. And so they give you half a syringe of that, and then another half a few minutes later. And I literally was like, and my best friend was just dying. After a few minutes you kind of come to and you're like, okay, that was fun. So after that, you kind of have cool time. They have you watching TV as you saw, and they let people then come back and visit you. It took a while for them to let, my mom and my best friend, who I said was my sister, come back and visit. I don't know why they won't let them be there until they put like the IV and stuff in. Very strange. I'll never understand. But first my mom came back. Oh, and they only let them in one at a time. Stupid. So first they let my mom come back, and of course, like all moms, she was a little worried, showing the love. And then they let my best friend come back, and we were just shooting the shit and making fun of everything. And she met the doctor, and he for real thought that she was my sister, because we look alike. I'll put a picture of that she posted on her Instagram here. So after she left, I laid there for a few minutes, and 11:30 passed, and I was like, hello? 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 Like, there was nobody there. Cool. Cool. So finally, like, 12:10 rolls around, and the doctor's like, alright, ready to go? And I'm like, I've been ready to go. Okay. And so these two, I'm guessing they're surgical techs or operation room nurses or surgical nurses or whatever, come and get me, and so they roll you straight into the operating room, like wide awake, and although you're relaxed, like you're fully aware of everything. And for me being a nurse, like I'm not really scared of the operating room. I would love to be like a ER nurse or a surgical nurse one day, so it doesn't scare me. So they roll me in there, and I see like everybody, putting on their garb and their dressing and their gloves and everything, and everybody's standing there like this, and I'm like, at least they're being sanitary, alright, I could dig it. And they have you move over to the operating table, and I was like, oh, you're not gonna like slide me over? And they're like, no, you're good. And I was like, okay, you better lock this table. I'm like, oh, this is scary. And so so I slid over. They lock like your arms into the the side things, and the anesthesiologist is behind you doing secret things. He doesn't tell you, which I wish he did tell me, because then I at least would have known what was coming and would have been able to like laugh about it later. But then everybody comes and stands like over you, and they're like, Susan, and you're like, yo, what's up? Like, dude, like, okay, I see you. And the doctor's like, we have to do what's called a timeout in the nursing world. He's like, we have to do a timeout and, you know, make sure that we have the right patient, right procedure, blah, blah, blah. I'm like, all right, let's do it. He was like, you are. And I was like, you know, Susan, blah, 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 blah. And he's like, we're doing which procedure? And I was like, VSG. He's like, vertical sleeve gastrectomy, right? And I was like, yes. And then I feel a burning going through my hand. And I was like, what is that? And they were like, oh, the good stuff. And I was like, that doesn't feel like good stuff. And the anesthesiologist was like, I'm sorry. He was like, I didn't know you wanted to know. And I'm like, you didn't want to tell me that you were putting this burning fluid up my arm? And I look over and I know exactly what it is. It's the why can't I remember names of meds today? I'll put it down below. But it's like the white serum that they give you that you're like, oh, shit. And he comes over with like the mask and he's like, this is just oxygen. I'm like, who are you trying to fool? I'm like, I know what you're doing. I know your tricks. And so it's like, it's just oxygen, breathe really deep. And I was like, this ain't oxygen. And that's literally the last thing I remember. Leave it up to me to call somebody out on their shit right before I knock out. And so the next thing I remember is waking up in recovery. But I can't even say I was fully awake because I was seriously like, my eyes were closed. I didn't want to do anything. I didn't even want to open them because I was so nauseous. And the nurse, at this time when I kind of woke up, my mom was there. I could hear her next to me. And she kept saying like, how are you feeling, honey? And the nurse kept like screaming like, how are you feeling? And she's like shaking and I'm like, I'm fine. Shh. I kept telling them to like be quiet. I'm like, just stop talking. I didn't want to hear anything. Like I just really wanted like silence and to be like to myself, and I couldn't. Like they literally would not stop talking and screaming and shaking me and touching me. I was just like, ugh. And so finally they stopped and I kind of like knocked back out again. And then I wake up again and I could feel my best friend. She's like petting my hair. And I was just like, oh God. And of course they're still asking me, how are you? Wake up, wake up. And they're like shaking you. And you're just like, okay, I'm fine. Shh, shh, be quiet. I literally was like telling them like, shh, be quiet. And my best friend was like giggling because she knew. I didn't want to be like a beast, you know? I didn't want to be so mean to them, but all I wanted to do was tell them to shut the up, you know? And so she kept telling my mom and my friend like, it's okay, she won't remember this anyway. And I kept saying like, I'm gonna remember this. I'm going to remember this. Like, stop saying that. It was just getting me more mad. So next thing I remember was them like rolling me up to my room, which was very nice. It was a personal room. It was very large. It had like a recliner seat slash lounger if somebody wanted to like kind of knock out there with you. It had seats, my own bathroom, everything. It was just me in the room, which then they told me that bariatric patients get their own room every time. So that's really nice. And then they told me something like, all right, move to your bed. And I was like, okay, go ahead, like move me. Because me as a nurse, like we always move our patients, you know what I mean? Or like slide them over on a sheet. No, they weren't having it. I was like, oh, you want me to move over? And I'm like, do you realize that I just had like major surgery on my abdomen? Like I got 6 holes in me, and I'm like, all right, fine. So I just like gripped my teeth and bared. I was like, and the second I got over there, I was like, oh my God, I'm gonna vomit. I was like, I'm going to vomit. Give me something, like, 'cause it's about to happen. And so the nurses, you know, they gave me the little like kidney bean thing, and I'm like, all right, cool. So I just like, you know, hella breathe through it. And they gave me some pain meds. They gave me some nausea meds. They they gave me another heparin shot in my arm. The whole time I was there, I got like probably 6 heparin shots in my arms. So that was cool. And then, so then I kind of like was in and out. And then I see my mom come walking into the room, and her face was like, hello, do you not remember I'm waiting for my daughter out there? And the nurse was like, oh, I was just about to come get you. And my mom was like, yeah. And so my mom came in and like sat down. And I remember like after the nurse left, I just kept telling my mom like, I'm sorry, Mom, that I was so mean in the recovery. I felt so bad, and I just wanted everybody to stop talking. And like I was on the verge of like crying because I was like nauseous and in pain, and I felt bad because I was like telling everybody to shut up, and I was like, I'm so sorry. My mom was like, Susan, it's fine, like yeah, it's all right, like, you know, I'm not worried about it. And so I'm like, where is everybody? She's like, you know, Jessica left, and I told the girls not to come because you were not having it downstairs. I was like, okay. After I got in my room, maybe like an hour or 2 later, the nurse comes in. She's like, hey, we need to take out your catheter. And I was like, okay. And so, so she's like, all right. And I already know the deal, so I just like spread my legs, and she just was like, 1, 2, 3, pull it out real quick. And I was like, eh. I was like, it was uncomfortable, but it wasn't as bad as I thought. It wasn't as bad as everybody makes it out to be. I'm sure going in would have been way worse, but I was out for that, so it's all good. And so that night there wasn't anything significant. It was just like every hour they came in and like check your blood pressure, check your heart rate, check your O2. DR, how's your pain level? Do you need more pains? Are you her pain meds? Are you nauseous? And literally it was like every half hour a new person coming in. And so I maybe got like 5-10 minutes of sleep at a time, you know what I mean, before the next person would come in, and I'd be like, hello. And so finally around like 2 a.m. or maybe it was like midnight or something, there was a shift change, so I got like a new nurse, and she was so adamant on getting me up and out of bed, and I was just like, yo, I'm about to vomit at any moment, so can we give it a break for a second? And so she kept like asking every half hour, and so finally around like 4 a.m. mind you, I was like, okay, I feel better, I'm not nauseous, you just gave me pain and nausea meds. I was like, all right, like, let's do this. So I got up and out of bed, and I did like 3 laps around the whole floor, which for somebody straight out of, you know, that major of a surgery, I would say was pretty good. The nurses were pretty impressed, especially with how fast I was moving. I was walking at like a regular pace. When other people I saw later in the day, they were moving like very slow. So I was like, all right, I'm a little proud of myself. All right, so after walking, I then went back to my bed, and it was the same thing for the whole rest of the day. Every, you know, 30 minutes to an hour, somebody new coming in, checking something, checking your pain, blah, blah, blah. So finally the doctor came in at like 1 in the afternoon the next day, and I was just like, bro, I'm trying to go home. I'm trying to like get out of here. Like, can you like come see me ASAP? And so, so he told me like, oh, well, are you trying to get out of here today? And I was like, yeah, I'm trying to go to my own bed. And so he was like, all right. So the nurse brought me like a bunch of like 1 ounce little like, you know, cough syrup cups full of water, 6 of them. She was like, okay, you have 4 hours to finish that, and then you can go home. And I was like, I wasn't even thirsty. The whole time I didn't even think about water. Like, I've heard a lot of people say like they felt tortured because they didn't get water right away. Like I didn't even think of it. And so so I drank that water down pretty easily. It didn't hurt. It didn't feel like I was full. It like, I finished in way less than 4 hours too. And so she then brought me the cup of red high set, which is like a pain med that they give you to take home. It's basically hydrocodone. And so I was like, oh God, because I hate liquid meds. They make me really sick. And so I tried taking 2 sips of that and almost vomited everywhere. I called the doctor again and I was like, yeah, that ain't happening. I need to take pills. I was like, so try something else. He was like, okay, how about Norcos? And I was like, I'm willing to try it. So the nurse brought in Norcos. We split it in half. I took one and then I took another one maybe like 15 minutes later. No problem, no pain, no nothing, no nausea, no nothing. So I was like, all right, good to go. Like, let's get out of here. So after he prescribed that, my mom went down to the pharmacy, got my meds, and then we left and went home. Let's talk about pain. Once I got home that night, it was just like, you know, laying in bed for the most part. Because at this point, my pain was much different at this point than it was in the hospital. Because obviously I didn't have an IV anymore. So when I was first in the hospital, I was having really, really bad pains. Right where like my diaphragm is. But it wasn't like pressure pain like a lot of people describe from like the gas that they fill you up with. Mine was like I was having muscle spasms. I was having terrible muscle spasms under my left like rib cage that would stop me from breathing. It hurt so bad. And at that point my right side didn't really hurt. But those went away before I left the hospital, and then my right side started hurting really bad. To this day, like right now, you see me kind of like leaning sideways. It's because my right side it's hurting still, especially to sit up straight like this. Laying down, no pain. Standing up, no pain. Walking around, no pain. Squatting, no pain. If I'm laying on my sides now, no pain. But for a few days there, it was hard to get up. It wasn't hard to stand, but I would like splint myself, so that's like holding yourself where it hurts, and that would help make it feel better. My incisions have never hurt, which is good, and they put a special glue over them, which is nice to keep them together so I don't have like bandages and tape and all that. My pain meds, the Norcos that I went home with, I have taken probably about 6 since I've been home. And I just take them whole now because I can take in pills with no problem. I don't feel it. I don't feel I feel nothing. So I take the pills. They don't bother my stomach. When it comes to my pain, the way I manage it is if I'm feeling pain like sitting up or walking around, I'll just go lay down for a few minutes till it feels better, get back up and keep going. Or at night, like you're laying down, so it shouldn't really hurt much unless you're, you know, turning side to side, which it does take a few days to be able to do that. So I haven't really been taking pain meds much. I just sometimes take them at night to help me sleep because I'm not normally a back sleeper, which is necessary after this surgery, so get used to that.